We all think we know Jane Eyre, right? For generations, it's been taught as one of the great classic romances. But what if I told you that its author, Charlotte Brontë, was secretly writing one of the cleverest horror stories of all time? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and unpack the novel's hidden Gothic genius.
So what's the verdict? Is this a story about finding true love, or is it a story about surviving pure terror? The truth is, it's both. And the way Brontë braids these two things together, the romance and the horror, that's what makes this book so powerful and honestly, so revolutionary. So how'd she do it? To really get it, we have to look at what was flying off the shelves in her day. The Gothic novel was a huge deal. We're talking ghosts, spooky castles, madness, the whole shebang. Now, Brontë didn't just ignore all that. Nope. She picked up those popular ideas and used them like a master craftswoman. Think of it as her Gothic toolbox.
It's almost like she had a recipe for a hit novel. Okay, step 1, you need a seriously haunted house. Got it. Step 2, add one dark, brooding hero with a huge secret. Check. Step 3, unleash some kind of monster to stir up chaos. You bet. And for that final flourish, a little dash of the supernatural. Brontë used every single one of these.
But here is where Brontë does something absolutely brilliant. She takes all these ingredients that everyone knew and loved, and she flips them. What if the haunted house isn't just a house? What if the monster isn't really a monster? She uses these classic horror tools not just to give you a cheap thrill, but to shine a light on the real horrors of her society. The horror, you see, isn't at all what it seems. All right, let's start with ingredient number 1 from that toolbox, the setting. In any good Gothic story, the building is never just a backdrop, right? It's a living, breathing character, a place that holds all the secrets and literally traps the people inside. For Jane, that house is, of course, Thornfield Hall. And this place is textbook Gothic. It's isolated, it's got these imposing battlements, and it's just filled with dark, creepy, winding corridors. It's the absolute perfect stage for a ghost story.
But look a little closer. Brontë herself calls it a splendid prison, and the name, Thornfield, is literally a field of thorns. Suddenly, the house becomes this powerful symbol. It's the gilded cage that trapped so many Victorian women, and it's the place that physically contains all the dark secrets of the wealthy upper class.
And this whole horror house thing starts way earlier for Jane, back at her aunt's home, in the Red Room. This isn't just some guest room, it's the room where her uncle died, and as a little girl, she is absolutely convinced his ghost is in there with her. It's a place of just pure psychological dread. Brontë describes this room like it's a tomb, with these heavy, oppressive red drapes, and that's no accident. The room itself comes to symbolize Jane's complete helplessness against her cruel family and the patriarchal world they stand for. This is her very first showdown with social injustice. Okay, next ingredient from the toolbox, the hero. Or is he? Let's talk about Mr. Rochester, the master of Thornfield Hall. This guy's no Prince Charming. He's something way darker, and honestly, way more dangerous. Rochester is a perfect example of a very specific literary character type, the Byronic hero, named after the poet Lord Byron. This is more than just your average bad boy. We're talking about a character who is moody, brilliant, cynical, and completely haunted by some dark secret from his past that makes him both incredibly attractive and a serious, serious threat. And man, does Rochester check all the boxes. The book makes it clear he's not traditionally handsome. He's cynical, his moods can turn on a dime, he has this super dominating personality, he's constantly associated with fire, and of course, he is hiding the biggest secret of them all. He's already married. That secret marriage leads us right to the most famous horror element in the entire book, the so-called Mad Woman in the Attic. For most of the story, she's the monster, right? She's the source of those ghostly laughs and the sudden violent attacks. But who or what is she, really? Her name is Bertha Mason. She's Rochester's secret wife, and he keeps her locked away. When we finally see her, Jane describes her using the language of monster movies. She even calls her a vampire. She is the absolute embodiment of Gothic terror. But to really understand what's going on with Bertha, we need to pull out a different kind of tool. It's a concept from psychoanalysis called the uncanny. It's that creepy feeling you get when something is super familiar but also deeply, deeply wrong, like something that was supposed to stay hidden but is just burst out into the open. And once you understand that concept,
Everything about Bertha just clicks into place. She isn't just a monster. She is Jane's uncanny double. Think about it. She is the Mrs. Rochester that Jane is literally days away from becoming. Bertha represents all the passion, all the rage that a proper Victorian woman like Jane is forced to push down and repress. Bertha is Jane's secret, terrifying reflection.
So we have the haunted house, the dangerous hero, and the monster in the mirror. Now, in a typical Gothic novel, this is the point where the hero would swoop in and save the poor damsel in distress. But this is where Charlotte Brontë completely flips the script.
Just think about the typical Gothic heroine for a second. She screams, she faints, she waits around passively for a man to come rescue her. Now think about Jane. Does she feel terror? Absolutely. But what does she do? She acts. She literally saves Rochester from a fire. And most importantly, when she finds out his terrible secret, she rescues herself by leaving him. Jane doesn't need a hero. She is her own hero.
Even the supernatural stuff in this book is used to support Jane's journey to independence. It's just brilliant. When Rochester proposes, a bolt of lightning splits a tree in half, a classic bad omen basically screaming at her to run. And later, when she's at her absolute lowest, she hears a supernatural call from Rochester. But it doesn't just summon her back to him. It validates her own inner voice, giving her the strength she needs to go back, but this time on her own terms.
So when you put it all together, the picture just becomes crystal clear. The haunted castle isn't just a spooky house, it's the prison of social rules. The monster isn't just a monster, she's the repressed rage of all women. The dark hero represents the seductive dangers of patriarchy. And that split tree? It's an omen that their relationship had to break so it could be rebuilt on truly equal terms. Brontë masterfully used the tools of horror to write an incredibly radical story of female independence.
Which leaves us with one last big thought. Jane Eyre really teaches us to look past the surface-level scares, to question who the real monsters are in any story. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of the monsters we find in books and movies are just screaming a truth that the rest of society is too afraid to hear?